What is up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. My name's Lewis, also known as MrCameraJunkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills and not your gear. As always, I always start my live stream with a tip of the day. Today is actually Saturday, and yeah, we're fully on Saturday. Usually I start my show here at midnight, but we are an hour ahead, starting a new time. So it is 11 o'clock, so it is Saturday, April 17th. And we're a clear hour. We're not transferring over to the 18th. We still got an hour to go. If it's your first time here, welcome. As like I said, my name's Lewis, and I always start my live streams with a tip of the day. I'm using my Sony cameras, but I have my spare here just to have something to hold while I talk about it. The tip of the day has to do with Sony Autofocus, which is on top of it being one of the class leading autofocus that we're using right now. So if I were to put this on here, it's gonna focus right on it, bring it back, product showcase mode, and it works flawlessly all the time. Something that actually makes this autofocus a little bit better when it comes to face tracking is called face registration. It's something that's built into a lot of the Sony cameras, I believe as far back as the Sony A6000. And what it allows you to do is to actually register a couple of, actually up to 8 faces in the internal memory of the camera and have them placed in strategic order. Okay, let me make sure my phone is off so that we don't get any interruptions. And it allows you to register faces, and it uses like facial recognition AI software to recognize you or whoever you design to put into that category in a crowd. So it's really good for photography when it comes to like events. I had mentioned it before. Let's say you're at a wedding, you put the bride in slot number 1, the groom in slot number 2, and other family members in according slots. So let's say the groom is with his groomsmen, the camera will automatically know how to pick him out of the crowd, making sure that he's in focus, being that it's his day, and his wife's day, or the bride, if they're actually together, because she's in the first slot, the autofocus is going to go and focus on her before it focuses on him. So it allows you to kind of not worry about it, and when you're doing an event, it will recognize that face out of a crowd. So let's say you're taking a shot of everyone dancing, your autofocus and the face tracking is going to find the subjects that you selected into your face registration first over anyone else. So this also helps when you're actually recording yourself, like vlog style and different things like that. It will allow you to, or it will allow the camera to recognize you and prioritize you and your face over anyone else. So when you're doing self recordings, in whichever way that you do them, it's not gonna like look for things in the background and try to hunt for focus in that way. So on top of Sony already being one of the class leaders, is just knowing how to utilize your equipment correctly and allows you to maximize the focus. So yeah, on both of my cameras I have the focus or the face registration with this mug registered as number 1, so that whenever I'm doing things like this, it always knows that I am the priority as focus. So that's my tip of the day. Okay, let me see, because I don't even have the messages up right now. Okay, Sly is here. How are you doing, Sly? Welcome. Let's see how this is looking. Oh, it's looking very small. Let me see. I had to redo my entire eCam setup. I wanted to make sure that things were running correctly. I had a motion overlay, and it was really lagging on my older computer. So with that being said, I need to take it easy on this older guy, but that's why I just made like a static overlay for my shots tonight. Okay, let me do this, and then if I click here, then I can move this around here. I gotta check that out, because that buy me a coffee overlay, it really doesn't allow me to adjust anything that's within that region, because it just sits on top. But I'm working things out. Yes, Sly. I'm just saying yes. Sly says, "Did I get a new microphone?" I did. Can you tell the difference in the audio? Because I've been testing it and I am so much happier with this. It's got I got an incredible deal. You know me. I'm the camera junkie, so I was lucky enough that, I'm looking into microphones right now. I was actually, and because I wanted to get the best, for my situation. I have an untreated room. Usually I have Aiden here making noise, so I wanted to see what it can reject and what's the best type of audio that I can provide to you guys. So I knew that my Mac machine is going to be running the fan, so I wanted to get something that could reject as much noise from the background, just to give the best overall experience. And I'm learning a lot when it comes to audio. And, I'm going to thank you, Sly, because I believe it was when you asked me about lavalier microphones, in a previous live stream, that I was like, you know what, I really don't know that much, and started looking into it a little bit more to just educate myself. And now I fell down the rabbit hole when it comes to audio. So there's a couple of pieces that I do want to get so that I can better set up a live stream audio. And that's going to help me in so many different aspects for all of the projects that I have in the future lined up, as far as podcasting and things like that. So with that being said, I'm hunting around, I'm looking through YouTube, and I guess the algorithms now figured out that I'm looking at microphones. And now when I hit up my usual application, my OfferUp application, now I'm getting microphones in my feed. So now I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me see what's on the used market. And this guy popped up. Now, on top of that, I think it sounds really good, right? It's really nice, crisp, clear. This is a roughly $120 microphone. Right now, say I wanted to go to Sweetwater or anything to pick this up. The person was selling it for $25. So I contacted them and I was like, you know what? Is there anything wrong with it? And apparently what was wrong with it was that the shock mount, which I'm using right now, which actually works phenomenal because it allows me to move this microphone now without making noise. So I'm extremely happy. But they were kind of far away, and to kind of finish the deal, they were like, hey, you know what? I can't make it. And I was like, you know what? It was kind of like a 45-minute drive. Oh, we got a mosquito rolling around here. Okay, so it was like kind of a 45-minute drive. I'm like, that's going to be an hour and a half back and forth, so on and so forth. So I just asked because, it never hurts to ask. So I just told him, I said, hey, for the extra time and distance, would it be okay that we just call it at $20 even? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, at $20, you can't beat this with a stick. So I took the drive. I drove up to Plantation up there, pretty far north, and I was able to pick this up. And literally, it was basically new in the box, still wrapped in plastic. The only thing that was wrong with it was that the shock mount was broken, and he said once the mount was broken, he just put it in a box and hasn't used it. It's about like a 7-year-old microphone right now, and some of the most popular microphones were made in the 70s, so the age of a microphone really doesn't matter. But I really what really sold it to me before the audio and everything was the way it looked. Oh, it's got this super steampunk look to it, retro vibe with a little metal pop filter. I was just like, you know what? I can't beat the deal. I'm looking into budget in a microphone that I'm really not used to, that I wasn't expecting to buy. So I was gonna pick up probably the pod mic or something like that. I wasn't gonna go into the SM7Bs and things like that. And then this one popped up and I was like, you know what? I just had to pick it up. So I grabbed it. I ran some tests with it, and I'm very happy with the frequency response that I'm getting from the microphone. It's picking me up nice and clear. I believe my audio levels are fine, and I'm coming in. I think the best audio from all of my live streams started today with this new microphone. So it's a Samsung MTR101. It is a studio microphone condenser, and it needs phantom power. So lucky me that I had purchased this little audio mixer that provides phantom power. So with that being said, I really have no equalization done to it, because starting to learn the microphones, each one has its own little sound and flavor to it. So to see exactly how this microphone sounds, I actually decided that I wasn't going to do any equalization to it at all, and I'm just running it straight down the line. So my EQ would be flat. The response on this microphone is flat, so I'm gonna see how it sounds. We're gonna see how it tests. As far as like, I know that I'm coming through clearly. I know it sounds good in that aspect. I just want to see if it really sounds like me, and that's kind of like the missing thing, to see if I do have to put some equalization to get it more of like my lifelike tone. But I believe if everything is correct and flat, this should be giving you a good representation of what I sound like in real life. And with that being said, thank you for noticing. I actually like the microphone. I have a second shot here. Actually, you know what? Let me set up a couple of things here. Let me set this up. That's key number 1, and then here, this will be key number 2. So now if I hit number 2, oh, we're not getting the shot. I decided to switch things up with the camera, and ever since I set up the new scene, I'm not getting visuals on my second camera. Okay, that sucks. Well, it looks like this is gonna be the only view that we have for tonight. I wanted to give the second view to actually give a more of a representation of the distance of the microphone. Yeah. So what did I do? Let me just finish the story. What did I do? Because it has a broken shock mount. Let me see if I find the extra piece running around here. Well, the connection that it had to the mount, which was how you would actually hold up the microphone, is what was broken. So that piece that you would screw on to the boom arm broke off of this shock mount. So let me just bring it up and show you exactly what I did, because what I had on my shotgun microphone that was actually, you know, what I've been using before, I had my like articulating arm with the clamp, and the clamp was holding the microphone. So when I took that off, I just took the same clamp, and now the clamp is holding the shock mount. Done deal. So it's working out perfect, and with the microphone being here, you know, if I didn't literally tell you that the shock mount was broken, who would know, right? And a couple of other things that I'm liking, just on the personal note, that before, whenever I would leave the shot to go grab something or do anything, let's say I was gonna fix something else, you know, adjust anything, when I would leave the shot, the lens would automatically focus to the back, you know, of on the painting. Now, because the microphone is here in the way, it's gonna focus on this and leave the background nice blurry and full of bokeh. So let me show you as an example. I'm gonna move out of the shot, and you should be able to hear me, but now it's focusing on the microphone and not the background. And then when I come back into the shot, face tracking with Sony, it gets it right back locked in, and I'm really happy with my setup right now. I don't know, maybe you guys could tell. All right, let me go back to this. Okay, so Randall says, I like your Ecamm live setup. Thank you. I wish my second camera was working, because what I did was I switched it completely around. I put the A7R2 hanging as my second shot, and right now we're looking at the Sony A6100 using my Sigma 16mm f1.4. So I went completely A6100 on the live stream. We're running the dummy battery. Basically, I just swapped out the cameras, and now I'm not getting the image off of my my A7R2 hanging over here as my second angle. Okay, so Sai says, it sounds great. I didn't have to adjust the volume at all. Yes! That's what we're looking at. Okay, Bob is in the house saying hi. How are you, Bob? Okay, just saw a video about putting the M1 Mac Mini inside the 2000 Mac Cube. I would love to see that, man. I'm gonna be working on that. I joined a live stream yesterday for the first time as like a interview mode on the Ecamm live community in Facebook, and we stayed up pretty late, but we were having so much fun. It was so funny. Lucky that I've been able to be in contact with an individual by the name of Keith Pelsner. He's a Grammy award winning music producer, and also he's a pastor of a church in Philadelphia. Probably one of the coolest dudes that you can meet. And we were just having so much fun on the live stream, and I learned a lot about the Ecamm and how to get the interview modes and things like that. But that's what that whole community is about, just kind of like learning on the fly, and we were helping each other, because that's, as we spoke before, one of the things that I want to be able to do. And I'm working on the overlays and things like that so that I can bring someone on in the interview mode and maybe have Peter on the live and be able to do a lot of things together on a live stream, because the conversations can go anywhere when you have two people on the live stream. So last night on Keith's live stream we had 3 people on there, and forget it, that's what I said, it was just so much fun. Okay, so Bob's saying hi to Sly. Scott's in the house. There we are. Says lower the mic, it should be enough to pick up your voice. Oh, like lower it physically. Well, those are all small tweaks, right? But the thing that's amazing is that this is the cheapest boom arm that you can find on the market, like the $12 newer like boom arm, basically the Amazon Basics boom arm, and it has those like springs that make all the noise. I can just pretty much stroke it like a guitar string, and because of the shock mount, it's literally not coming through. I got it, and I was thinking, you know what, I'll figure out how to mount the microphone afterwards, because you really can't beat $20. Just some people could spend $20 on lunch easy just for themselves. So $20 on the microphone, and it's giving me vast improvements compared to the shotgun. And then another thing that I did, just I made this pop filter. So this is something that I was able to make on my own. I got some foam that, instead of like wrapping it around or doing anything like that, I've seen some models that just kind of take the foam and just hover it right above or in front of the microphone. So that's what I decided to do, and I made this pop filter, and that makes the world of a difference, because the microphone is seeming to work very well. It is very crisp and clear, but I'm Puerto Rican, so so I can get excited and and this setup, the way that I have it right now, I think it's saving the audio from me clipping right now, on a live. And that's why I said I'm missing a couple of things, just like a limiter, so that it doesn't matter how loud I get. I believe Peter was mentioning that in one of his live streams as well, all the little things that he has to get the audio so that it doesn't go too high, and that it always stays nice and level, no matter how he influxes his voice. I'm not there yet, but working on it. Randall says they'll move it more to the side. I think here's fine. says, I will send you a link. Okay, I'm not sure what the link's about. It says the air horn going off at this time of night is gonna get me kicked out of my house. Is the air horn too loud? Let me bring it down a little bit. Let's see. I didn't want to drop the air horn again. All right. So tonight's topic, right? Haven't even started talking about that. Just talked about the tip of the day, but tonight's topic is the new 14mm Sony FE 1.8 G Master lens. Sony, I was going to make like a live stream about the Sony 50mm f1.4, right? Or no, the f1.2, the new one. And oh my god, like that lens, from the people that I spoke to, and I'm speaking to even other content creators like Miguel Quiles. I was on one of his live streams, and he was basically just chatting. He's saying, listen, if you like the 50mm, this is the lens to get, the Sony FE 1.2 G Master. He says, sell all your other lenses, it's worth it. And I'm like, to have a professional photographer like Miguel Quiles that I look up to on the professional level, give me a little tip like that has really got me scratching my head. And now to know that Sony is dropping another incredible piece of glass, because this one is really gonna put like a lot of critics to bed. You're talking about astrophotography, 14mm 1.8, and being a G Master, because that's what's important. The G Masters, you know that you're going to be able to rely on corner to corner sharpness, that this lens has been put through the fire before it gets that little red stamp on that G. That red G, this lens is top of the line. And matching something like that with their new Sony Alpha 1. So who is this lens for? A bunch of people. Anyone who says, hey, you know what, 16mm is not wide enough for vlogging. Okay, now you got a 14mm, you can't say anything. I already mentioned astrophotography. And if you want to apply that to the APS-C side, oh, forget about it, because that's going to be an incredible lens that is going to give you a 20mm equivalent on an APS-C lens, and with the ability to do clear image zoom, that lens is going to be killer. Now, it was rumored, I believe months ago, to be a 16mm G Master that was coming out, and Sony made it even wider at the 14. So with that being said, this lens, I just want to know how much the price is going to be, because the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because it's not so much rumor. I was able to see an actual EXIF data that mentioned exactly that setup, a 14mm G Master 1.8. It was in a different language, but you can pretty much get the gist of it. So very interesting lens that Sony is going to be coming out with. I want to see what the price is going to be on that. But Sony, man, Sony's this is where I have to say about it. Sony's impressing me with all of these lenses that they're coming out with, because Canon, being the top dog when it comes to sales of cameras, is just the name that's just reverberated throughout time. They're always boasting about themselves being a lens company, not so much a camera company. Like, we sell lenses and the cameras to match, and that's something that they've always said. And it looks like Sony is realizing that aspect, and that's why they have over 70 lenses available for the E mount, and they're continuing to bring out lenses. This 14 millimeters got me like laughing almost, because that thing is gonna be ridiculous. And now, you know, say what you want to say about the IBIS that Sony cameras have. It might not be the best, you know, it might not be Panasonic GH anything quality, or even how they say like the new Canon, you know, stabilization was giving you a bunch of stops. That's also for photography. I believe Sony, even though might not have the best IBIS available, I think has the best of both worlds, because it works well for photography, but it also works well for video. And that's where I don't think Canon has that, because it doesn't matter whose video that it is that I'm watching. If it's on an R5 and it's like vlog format, we're seeing those like wobbly corners, and the image in the background is constantly moving. When it comes to video, or better said, not videography, but like film, you know, cinematography, that's something that, you know, even though I wouldn't consider vlogging to be a cinematic type of style of making videos, you just wouldn't even see anything like that. That's what I'm saying. So, yep, it's the newer cameras. They look great, but when it comes to video, I do see the wobbly corners, and I see them in every video. Those are just things that I notice. It could just be me, but I'm also the guy that notices if whoever's making the video is not looking at the lens, and that they're looking up at themselves or off to the side because they're having a conversation with their own face. I notice those things, you know, so it could just be me, but I doubt it. I doubt that it's just me. It says should have no complaints from Mario tonight about the audio, right? Yeah, it's so weird to be early tonight, right? So how are you guys liking the new time slot? You know, well, to see that I have Sly in here as like one of the first ones in, that totally makes a huge difference, right? Let's see who we get throughout the hour, you know, while we reach midnight. Yeah, but if Mario comes in, I'm glad. Yeah, he should not be telling me anything about raising the volume or anything like that. And you know what's the best part here? Even if he does, I have room to go. Because before, on the shotgun microphone, for it to sound adequate enough, I had the gain almost all the way. In some cases, I actually did have the gain all the way. And when it was at that level, that's when it was picking up everything. I'm listening to a monitor here, and through the monitor, I was hearing birds chirping outside, and I'm like, yeah, this is not this is not conducive to what I want. I'm trying to limit the sound. And now I'm like halfway on the gain, so I have plenty of room to bring up and boost. And I think that's why, because I'm able to keep the gain relatively low comparative to the other microphone. I'm able to actually just get a much clearer sound. So I'm super happy. I can't wait, because I'm gonna listen to this live stream and check it out. Okay. Okay, so Randall says link for the M1 Mac Mini. Oh, okay, that he was gonna send me the link. Okay, cool. Oh, Scott says, haha, I live alone anyway. So you know what? There we go. All right. Let's see this. Okay. Now you know what happens when I awake from a nap, when I hear someone is snoring. I guess that's what we hear, the air horns, right? Oh, Sammy Superstar's here. Scott Rogers saying, haha, yeah. Sammy saying, hey, how you doing, Sammy? What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. Randall is saying he's loving the new time slot. Sammy's asking why the new time. Well, if I'm able to go on sooner, then maybe I'm able to get a new crowd in here, because it's tough for me even at times. I would have always wanted to go earlier, but sometimes it's just not even possible. Now things are changing, things are being put in place that is giving me more availability. I'm starting to do something completely new, which is, you know, if I'm serious about taking my channel and my content creation serious, then I need to really think about it seriously. So if I would like this to be a type of job, employment for me in the future, then I need to think of it as a job right now. Kind of like the mentality of like dress for success. You know, you have to make it until you make it, because there's no faking it, you know. So you just got to make it until you make it. And in that process, how can I say, well, yeah, in that process, what I'm doing now is that I'm scheduling my week to schedule how I make my content. So now I'm going to be batch recording videos, and tomorrow is going to be my recording day. So today I was setting up a lot of things, including like what was going to be today's topic of, you know, of the live stream, the new Sony, you know, to see what was going on. Before, this lens was rumored to be a 16mm. This is, I was able to find something solid that gave me enough to talk about this as a subject on the live stream. Then also planning my content for the rest of the week. So I have videos, topics, ideas, and everything set up so that after tonight's stream, I'm able to, you know, get some rest, get an early start on tomorrow, and batch record the videos that I have set up. Then when it's a lot more difficult for me to record during the week, that's the time where I don't have the perfect environment to actually make something, you know, where the audio is good and I can control pretty much the elements. That's the time where I'm going to be sitting down and I'm just going to be editing the videos and doing all of the tedious work that I don't need the perfect environment for. So I'm setting up my days of the week with scheduled tasks so that, you know, like let's say Monday I'm going to be doing like thumbnails, Tuesdays I'm writing like scripts and ideas, Wednesday I'm researching, and I'm setting up this system. I'm still working on it, that's why I don't have anything set. But as of right now, tomorrow is going to be my first day of like legitimately batch recording my previous week's ideas for videos. And if I'm able to continuously hold myself accountable as saying, you know what, if this is a job that I want in the future, I need to set these things up in my schedule and make them a priority of things that I need to get done, and not just put them on the back burner as like, you know what, okay, if I get time for it. No, I have to make time for it. So with that being said, this is kind of like a work in progress, and that's also why I want to see about having the availability and scheduling the time slot even earlier. I would like to maybe eventually get to 10 o'clock, but hey, one step at a time, right? Right now I'm moving it from midnight, but I believe even you, like having you here, Sammy, at 11:30 is a lot easier than at midnight. Maybe for the East Coasters, and then still be around on the live stream for the West Coasters, you know, and keep it going that way. Sly says, I normally wouldn't be here this early, but I was off today. Okay, cool. All right, guitar giveaway channel is here. It says, hello, Mr. Camera Junkie. How are you? I'm doing good. How are you, sir? If you can let me know what your name is, so I could address you by your name and not your channel name. Okay, off today, but I have to go to work tomorrow, working 6 days. Okay, well, I'm glad that you were able to enjoy your birthday, sir. It was much, well-deserved day off. Sammy says true. Okay. Yes, I'm thinking of purchasing the Sony A6100 camera for $1,000. Awesome camera. Guitar giveaway channel. Okay, you're looking at the Sony A6100 right now. Right now, my A7R2 is just not connecting to eCam, so tonight I only have one camera angle. But with that being said, you're looking at the A6100 with the Sigma 16mm f1.4. I believe this is an amazing combination. Let me just look at it right now. Yeah, obviously it doesn't have picture profiles, but I'm running the standard, I forget what they're called. Like the style, it's not a picture profile. I forget what these things are called, but anyways, it's the standard. It's not like vivid, it's not neutral, it's not anything, and it's in standard. White balance is set up to my lights correctly, and I love the image that I get off of this. Also, another thing is that the autofocus is so great. Look at that. And this lens allows you to get so close that it's almost macro level. And then right back to me. Fail safe. Like, that's why I choose Sony, because they are what I consider like the best hybrid system right now when you want to do both. So the fact that I'm using this for video, but it's also one of the leaders in photography, which is what I mostly do. That's why I have the A7R. Man, forget it. Rob is in the house. What is up? How are you doing, sir? Blank Boulevard saying, yo. Alright, Rob's got a question. Says, what's up with the new framing for the last few weeks versus full screen? Is part of your streaming software or just something new to keep it fresh? It's just new. It's basically the same image. Like, I could show you right now. Let me do something here. I'm gonna remove that. Okay, and I'm just gonna start a new. It's basically the same image, as you can see. It's just zoomed out a little bit. Let me escape that. So if you look at it, it's exactly the same image, just shrunken down. What it allows is that it still gives you the same exact field of view, so you're getting the same image, but it also gives me space at the bottom to run like this, the screens and the overlays, and also gives me a little bit more space to actually run, you know, like the comments. So just like your comment, I'm able to just bring it down. This is buy me a coffee thing. And it's also like not covering my face, giving enough space so that everything fits. So, but I'm loving eCam because of that fact, because you're just able to do that. Like, to give you an example, see, it's basically, that's the shot, and then I just throw that on top. Have the scrolling text, and then the buy me a coffee. So if you do want to support me, go over to buymeacoffee.com. I believe this is the best thing for content creators, and if you're looking to support an up and coming channel, I would appreciate just stopping by, because I try to do things in kind of like a less, like, I don't know, kind of like less evasive, kind of like, so for example, for whatever reason, even though I can get traffic, I've tried to continuously connect to the Amazon affiliate program, and month after month they kick me out, and they say that my channel doesn't meet the requirements. and they don't give me what the requirements are so that I can see if I'm anywhere close. So with that being said, I'm kind of done with Amazon affiliate links right now, because it's taking time away from me actually making content and designing things for you guys who are actually watching. And if anyone wants to, support the channel and likes what I do, then they can go to support me at Buy Me a Coffee. I think it's a lot better than Patreon. That's why I chose it, because you don't have to sign up, as far as like, you don't have to become a member of Patreon to then actually be able to support your content, like your favorite content creators. You could literally just go there and say, hey, you know what? I want to buy you a cup of coffee. And it makes a huge difference. So thank you in advance. Okay, so let me take this off right here so I can read it. I'm planning to buy the Sony A6100, but pretty new to videography. Should I buy it or no? If you can budget it in, absolutely. I think this camera is amazing for the price, and right now it's unfortunate that I'm not sure exactly what the reason is. Now I have my my ideas. There's a shortage in silicone, in silicone for the silicone chips. There has to be, because it's affecting everything right now. Apple that is thinking about producing like millions of new M1 computers is trying to figure out who's gonna manufacture like the actual chips, something of that sort, and trying to move away from like overseas distributor for those silicone chips. Another thing is that we saw kind of like shortages in, we're seeing shortages in the GPUs, in video graphics processors, that right now I believe Nvidia is re-releasing older GPUs that they have in their warehouses because they can't produce anything new. And it's a lot of things that people aren't really like talking about. So I purchased this A6100 in May last year, and I was lucky enough, and I really do say lucky because I'm looking at things right now. I was lucky enough to buy it for $500, and right now you can't get anything like that, like at all. The A6100 is running at $1,000, and it's like the price keeps going up. Now the camera is great if you can budget it. If it's part of your budget, yes, but know that you're also gonna probably want to get a nice prime lens to maximize the camera, because one of the sayings that I have here that I always say is glass before ass, which is optics are always more important than the camera body. The glass that you put in front of your sensor is more important than the sensor. It's always been this way. When you go back to film days, people had different brands and different qualities and stocks of film, but the glass was always the main thing, because it's what's admitting the light to the film or to the sensor. So if you got quality glass, then you're gonna get a quality image no matter what on the back end you're using to render that image, whether it be film or a digital sensor. So if you can budget the 6100, it's a great machine. Right now, the way things are, I always say make sure that it's in your budget. Don't go into debt. Don't exert yourself, because there's a lot of things depending on exactly what it is that you're trying to do to actually get by. If it's something like a live stream, I can honestly tell you one of the features of Ecamm, which is amazing, is that you can take your iPhone and connect it directly to it and use it like a webcam. And a lot of the iPhones have pretty decent cameras, and if you have good lighting, you're not gonna have a problem with using that as a camera. So That's actually one of the things that I was gonna be doing, but I didn't have enough time because today I decided to start a little bit early. But because I wasn't able to get this camera to go, that's something that I could do. I could literally just like attach an iPhone and use that as a second camera or an overhead cam. A lot of options that could be done, but if you can budget it and also know that you have to budget in glass for it, then yeah, it's a great camera. But like I said, if you're gonna go into debt for it, I don't recommend going into debt for anything like that unless it's your business. But I really doubt that if you're just starting into this, that it's already officially your business. Okay, Rob says, gotcha, I thought the image was cropped. Looks nice. Says the scrolling text apart from the image. Thank you. Says, I'm planning to buy a used 800. He said, oh, that's 800 USD. I saw CAD, I was like, maybe cash on and delivery, but I was like, anyways, USD, yeah. But and now, is it 640 that you're gonna pay used comparative? Because 640 is a great price, and if you can get it with a kit lens that you don't have to, like, something to get you by for the time being, that's a great price, especially right now because things are exceedingly to be going up. But it's pretty interesting the way that the market is going right now when it comes to these items, because the items are becoming more and more scarce, and it's super interesting. Super interesting because right now you can't even find GPUs, and it's gonna sound completely off the wall, right? Why there's kind of like a shortage of these GPUs, but to kind of like just give you a quick overview, it has to do with what is it, like Bitcoin mining? I don't know if you've ever gotten one of these people to tell you like, oh, I'm a Bitcoin miner, and I'm like, I don't ever pay attention to it, but the miners are actually having like these computer racks that are completely set up with a bunch of GPUs, because there's a special something in the GPUs, and it's not really about the graphics processing, but that allows them to mine for Bitcoins faster. And ever since that started happening, it's been rendering a lot of the silicone in these graphics processors like useless after they've been Bitcoin mined. And I believe that's part of this kind of like missing silicone, or like the lack of silicone to meet the demand. So it's really interesting once I started digging into that. So Scott says, can you mount Canon EFS lenses on that Sony A6100? Yeah, that's actually how I started my move from Canon to Sony, because the first camera that I got my hands on was the Sony A6000, and I didn't have any quality glass. I just had like the kit lens, and the kit lens that I had on it was like the first gen kit lens, the one that wasn't even the retractable, because that little retractable pancake lens is a lot better than their original 18 to 55, I believe, OSS, which had like a retractable lens, or that the lens actually extended. With that being said, once I got my hands on my Metabones adapter and threw my Canon 50mm f1.4 onto the Sony A6000, was when I was like, oh, this machine is awesome, because it had all the specs, but what I didn't have was like the quality glass. And once I was able to put all of my quality L series glass onto that sensor, the images that I was getting was so blown away. That's what made me realize, you know what, I need to invest into the Sony ecosystem glass. And what really was the hook, line, and sinker was when I got my hands on the Zeiss 55mm f1.8. It's just something about that lens. Excuse me. Just definitely something about the lens. Absolutely love all the images that I get. I need to hydrate. Give me 1 second. But yeah, that's what finally did me in. I was still transferring, and I still use that Metabones adapter for a variety of different vintage lenses that I have, especially like this old school. I have this Quantaray. It's a 135 millimeter to 400, and it's f5.6 on the long end. 5.6 at 400 millimeters is a bokeh master. I can't even tell you. And it being like a vintage type of lens, it really gives this filmic look to my images. I took images of my brother with that lens, and as soon as everyone saw them, they're like, yo, it looks like he came out of a movie. Like he looked like a movie star or something like that. Like he looked like he was in a Sopranos movie or something like that. Like it was really interesting, and that's always been one of my secret weapons. So what's up? Tom Buck is in the house. Says, love that mic. That's awesome. You know what? This is my new microphone, sir. You would definitely take a look at it. This is a microphone that I picked up for $20. It is a Samsung MTR 101 studio microphone, condenser, and I think it sounds good. So you let me know what you think about how I sound tonight with this microphone. I just couldn't beat it. I was, with recommendations from Tom Buck, I'm budgeting for a pod mic, and that's what I was going to get. And you see a lot of like dynamic microphones out there, like the SCs. I think like at $18. Even the Pile, like the SM57 remake, are these budget microphones. But I was like, you know what? I want to budget for something good. And then I saw this one on the used market, and I'm like, oh, I really like the way it looks too, because it looks steampunk. Like that's the way that I can say it. It literally looks steampunk. Like if it literally had like just some rivets on the side, it would just match it perfectly. But I like the way it looks, and I'm happy with the sound that I'm getting from it. It definitely sounds a lot better than my shotgun microphone. And yeah, and you can't beat that. Like I mentioned before, you can spend more than $20 on lunch. So the fact that I was able to pick this up for $20 with the shock mount that's working, awesome. Okay, so he says, I'm buying it $800 Canadian, and it's $640 American. Okay, then yeah, that's a great price. Because, brand new, they're going for like $750. Okay, Scott says, B&H has a new A6100 body for $748. Well, it depends. Blank Boulevard, are you getting it with a lens for that price? Because then it's like a no-brainer. Okay, Rob says, question, what ND are you liking these days? For your Sigma f1.4, I picked up the Tiffin 3-pack. Just curious if I found one you like. Mine's not variable, so I have to switch them as needed. I really haven't been using an ND filter for my Sigma. My Sigma's only been like in low light situations mostly right now, and I haven't been using it for video. So that's why I would use an ND for video to keep, the aperture low, bokeh the way you want. When it comes to photography, that I have been using it, you could just crank up the shutter speed so that you can get a nice sharp shot and still, and expose it correctly. So I've been using my shutter speed more than anything on my Sigma lately. But here with the low light 1.4, that's mostly what I've been using it for here. Okay, so Randall's asking the same thing. 640 with the kit lens for the A6100. He says yes, then that's a deal. Like, rip the arm off, because you can't find it like that at all. You're usually looking at least $1,000 or maybe a little bit more with the kit lens right now, with this silicone. Because that's the whole thing. People don't think that it's gonna affect cameras. It's not so much the sensor, because all these phones, all these electrical devices, they use these things called rare earth elements, and those are the things that are it's in the name, it's rare. And like graphene and graphite has to do with it, so all of that has to do with making the processors that do all the computing for us. So the A6100 and like the new Sony Alpha has 2 microprocessors inside these cameras. If there's a shortage of the materials that we need to create those processors, then there's going to be a shortage of all these electronics, and then what's already made, the value is going to just go straight up. And that's what I'm seeing in the market. People are reselling old graphic cards for more than double the price just because they're available. So let's say somebody who wants to start a YouTube channel and wants to create a gaming rig so that they can play Minecraft. Minecraft is not a game that will actually like require that much when it comes to graphics processing, so an older GPU would work just fine. But because there's nothing available as far as the new GPUs, the old ones are being price jacked like crazy. So it's crazy what's going on right now in the computer. Randall probably knows, but Randall says get it. I second that. Right there. Used or new, yeah, regardless. Tom says Samsung makes really good stuff. Yeah, I had heard so many good reviews about the Samsung Q2U, and you know, what sold me on this mic was the price and the look, because it doesn't look like a regular microphone, you know. So if I were to have like, you know, a standard dynamic microphone, I'll look up here like either a stand-up comedian just, you know, walking around. But this is not an eyesore. I think this looks very nice. Really love the like brush metal look to it. It came with a little pop filter. Okay, so it came with this pop filter here with the accessory kit, but the metal mesh and it being so sensitive was not enough, so I actually made this pop filter here. And FYI, this is what I can do with a metal clothes hanger and a pair of pliers, and I was able to mold that to hold my foam pop filter. And this one really prevents a lot of pulsives, especially for me being Puerto Rican. And yeah, like I said, 20 bucks, you can't beat that. It says, bro, you deserve more subs. Thank you, man, but I'm gaining some weight, so the last sub that I had was yesterday. I need to cut back. I need to start, you know, eating healthier. But I appreciate you thinking about me and making sure that I'm, you know, fed correctly and well hydrated. I'm just messing with you, obviously, right? Give me a second. I appreciate the compliment. Sammy says true to that, I guess. He also says, I'm rocking the M1. The Samsung Q2U is Diana's classic recommendation. Yeah, and that's what I said. Like, once you hear the quality of the product, right? That's kind of what sold me with this microphone being kind of like a no-brainer. I was like, this is like, I guess, like I mentioned it before, it's like all the stars aligned, and I was like, you know what? This microphone is definitely worth more than the $20 that I paid for it, but that's exactly what I said. I didn't buy a cheap microphone. I bought a good microphone inexpensively. And that's why I always advocate for the used market. Another thing is that, you know, I'm not just buying on the used market as far as saying I'm gonna buy something from eBay, because eBay, there's no connection with the person either. So I really like using the I'm forgetting the name, the OfferUp application and like Facebook Marketplace, because I'm getting to meet someone new, and then you know, you get to either hear the story or share a story. So like when I was able to meet up with this individual to buy this microphone, right away he's just like, hey, so why are you buying a microphone? What do you do? And I'm like, hey, I do a live stream every Saturday. And he said he might stop by, you know, but it was still a conversation and experience. And also, you know, FYI for all of you out there who are trying to make connections in any other way, anything that I purchase or that I sell through these same markets, I'm always also advertising my business, which is Mr. Fix-It. I provide an express iPhone repair service. So when I'm dealing with local people, then I'm also able to just make them aware of a service that I provide. And a lot of sales and purchases that I've had, whether it be, you know, camera or computer gear, have also led to like repeat sales or repeat services when it comes to the iPhone repairs. So it's also dealing kind of like shopping locally and investing in your community. Not only are you helping provide, you know, maybe funds for somebody in your own town locally that could be going through a rough stint, and that's maybe why they're selling their gear. And if you have the ability to do that, then I would recommend that. Plus you could just make a friend. Oh, he says, did I check out the SM57 on eBay? I did check it out, but you know what popped up when I started checking out the SM57s on eBay? That for like $10 with shipping, you can buy the capsule. So, hypothetically, I could either, you know, cut off a XLR cable and solder it directly to the capsule and make a makeshift tube and have an SM57 with no transformer inside to adjust for needing the phantom power on that microphone, and it being a dynamic microphone like straight through, which I saw some videos and everything actually make a very big difference when it comes to the sound. And it could be kind of like that SM7B on the junkie style, so to speak, you know, on the MacGyver 2.0. So you can get the 57 and you can be paying a lot of extra for a metal housing. So, you know, it's funny that Tom Buck is here, because one thing that I was thinking about was like, I always on the back of my head was 3D printing. I never got into it, but I was like, you know what? If I had a 3D printer, I would just 3D print kind of like a makeshift handle of the SM57 and then just buy the capsule and make my own to see exactly how that would sound and see what sound I would be able to get out of it. So that was just something that really I was like, I don't even have to buy a broken one to try to fix it. I can literally just buy the capsule off of the SM57 and start working from there, see what I do. Okay, so it says, I'm planning to sell my Canon M50 for the A6100. Is it worth it? I would tell you to ask Diana gladly. No, that's something that Sammy would say. Yes, I would recommend that, mostly for one reason. If you want to do anything like this, like a live stream in the future, you cannot connect the M50 at all, not even with the Canon connection app. It would have to be the Mark II and up. So even though Canon makes a great camera, when it comes to the video features, that's where it's just a little bit lacking on this same exact model that you have, the M50 Mark I. If it was the Mark II, then you would have the added feature of that, but there's really no other upgrade on that camera. It was like literally the Mark II was just like the web version. So that's why I wouldn't recommend it. And even though they're starting now, like with well, not the adapters, because you could always adapt EF and EFS glass to it. But I think just recently, last year was when Sigma just started bringing out their Trio for the series, and just they don't have that much glass as comparative to Sony. Like right now, today's topic is the 14 millimeter, you know, that Sony's rumored to come out with. It's not so much a rumor when you can see the EXIF data online, but the 14 millimeter is something that you'd be able to apply to the 6100 and so on and so forth. And you're talking about over 70 lenses, so you have the plethora of lenses to look forward to in the future. And the fact that Sony has one E-mount that ranges their APS-C, their full frame, and even their cinema cameras, it's a great ecosystem to get into. That's my personal opinion. Because I could tell you one thing, people can dog about all the colors that they want. This is a standard picture profile or whatever. I can't remember what they're called right now. Just having the biggest brain fart because it's like it's not the picture profile, but like I guess the image style, the creative style. Oh, that's the name. Yeah, so the creative style, it's standard, not even neutral or anything, not just a standard creative style. And these are the colors. I believe my skin tones look very well, and I have no complaints with my Sony colors, you know. And I can honestly tell you, I owned the the A6000, and I know that sensor had a really, really bad green cast on all the images. Even the raw images you would have to adjust because you would get that green cast. And that's something that Sony recognizes and obviously fixed in these cameras. Okay. Okay, so Sammy says that's amazing. It says I'm curious. How much would it be to repair an iPhone 7? Just curious. Let me know in the message there if it's the regular size or the full size. Well, I'll let you know either way. Regular size is $65. Full size or the plus size is $75. I got good prices, man. That's why. You can buy a SM57 for $15. Yeah, pretty much. Like that's what I'm saying. Like if you really think about it, like I can get an SM57, and because I know how to solder, make a couple of adjustments, get a $10 XLR cable, and just use the back end so that I have like the female end to plug in, and then run the cables that I cut, split, and solder them directly to the capsule. You have your microphone, and all you have to do is figure out what you're gonna use to actually put it, because the capsule that you buy for $10 literally has the grill, the mesh, and everything. So it's literally just the top end microphone piece of the SM57, and you're just missing the body. Says yes, you can. I've used the M50 on the live stream. I've used the USB wire. Really? Okay, well, I stand corrected. Well, thank you for letting me know that. I know that's why they came out with the M50 Mark II, was because the M50 couldn't do it. Maybe a new firmware update or something changed that out. So I'll look into that. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so Randall's saying, good night, everyone. I sent you a link, Lewis. Check your phone. Okay, thanks. I have the tones off. Says Diana made a funny meme about the Canon M50. I gotta check it out. Sly saying good night to Randall and to have a good week. Sammy says, wow, that's cheap. I'm not sure exactly what he was saying. So, all right, we're officially into Sunday. So this is normally the time that I would be starting my live stream. And it's like, we've got a lot in, right? We're doing good here. So, all right. Do you guys have any other questions about either this? Like, what are your thoughts on this new Sony lens? Because I think the one that's really gonna be surprising is, you know, a G Master prime lens, 1.8, 14 millimeters. We're gonna see some incredible like astrophotography coming off of this lens. amazing. Like I just can't wait to see what the images look like to get off that lens. But Sony, man, Sony's got me scratching my head, man. Sony's got me like budgeting, you know, like how I'm gonna pay for these lenses. I gotta figure this stuff out, man, because even more because this is something that's coming down the pike, right? So it's on its way. The 50 millimeters here, man, and I'm a 50 millimeter junkie. I love 50 millimeter. So to get that G Master 1.2 on my R series, I'll start setting up the 50 millimeter across the room over here, just so that I can use it on the live stream, just so that I can. Cause man, so that was the one that I had even like. I don't think I've even mentioned it on the live stream because, you know, kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Let's not talk about it so I don't have to like have the FOMO. But man, that 50 millimeter, I just keep looking at the images that I'm able to see that are coming off of that lens. Manny Ortiz keeps saying that he's never seen a lens that works so well and is so sharp shooting into the sun. So he's still able to focus on the subject, get sharp images with light coming directly into the lens. That's next level stuff, man, with Sony. Okay, so Scott says Pyle makes an SM57 clone pretty cheap too. I have a couple in my music bag when gigs as backup. Yeah, that's kind of like what I had mentioned, but you know what? The Pyle is a clone, meaning it also has the transformer inside. What I was already looking to do was to get a maybe broken SM57 so that I don't have to sacrifice a working microphone to do what I wanted to do, which was remove the transformer. But with that being said, I don't even have to go that far if I can just buy the capsule, and then I don't have to get a budget, you know. And nothing wrong with the Pyle microphones because I think they're actually excellent, you know, but I still don't have to sacrifice a working Pyle or a working SM57 for me to try to like MacGyver this microphone, you know, to see what sounds I can get from it. So that was just it. It was just a curiosity thing that I was scratching my head because I realized what the difference is of the SM57 compared to the SM7B. So with that being said, I am looking into some of these microphones because I am looking to get into more of a narrative type of role and start maybe doing voiceover work. I believe I mentioned it before. And with that being said, I am going to be testing out this microphone in that, you know, in that field, and also looking to see that if I can get something makeshift to get me the results that I want. You know, if I can spend $20 and get the sound that I want, that's comparative, and I'm not saying the same, but comparative to the low noise floor and flat response that you would get from an SM7B, but I spent $20 on it all day, every day. I don't care if I make it out of a Pepsi can, so to speak. If I can get the sound that I want out of it and put it into like my soundproofing so that when I go to do a voiceover work, I'm getting that quality as the output, I really don't care what it looks like because nobody's gonna see the microphone when they're hearing an audiobook or anything of that sort. So that was my frame of thought. That was my thinking. You know, there's so many good deals, but that's the whole thing. Instead of getting something that, like for me, for the live stream, I wanted something that looked nice. That's why I was gonna get the pod mic, because it was gonna serve the purpose that I like or that I need, and also not be like an eyesore, you know, not have this puffy, you know, pop filter, you know, windscreen, so to speak, over the microphone that already has like a round thing. So just, you know, like a traditional stand-up, or like they say, like a church microphone. So instead of having that, to have something that looks good and that not only doesn't look bad, but that I like the way that it looks and I get the functionality that I want, that's win-win. Yes, sir. All right. It's funny. Now we're past midnight and I don't see Mario here. Maybe he'll catch the replay and he'll be like, oh, the audio, he got it right. Okay, it says the only thing the M50 Mark II has better is the HDMI output. Okay, so that's maybe the difference. Maybe that's what I got confused, that it doesn't have the clean HDMI at all, and that the clean HDMI is only in the Mark II. For example, I am like, Sony also has a web utility where you can connect it via USB, but you also don't get the highest quality. Right now I am connected via HDMI to a video capture card, and I'm using Ecamm, which is also one of my new favorite toys to mess with here, so to speak. What lens should I get for this camera? Well, it just depends. I was planning on getting the Sigma 30mm f1.4. That's also a great lens. Any of the Sigma lenses that you're getting, those primes, the 16mm, the 30, and the 56, all in the f1.4, are amazing lenses, especially for the APS-C line. There is an APS-C crop factor that I don't know if you are aware, but I will let you know how that works right now on the Sony A6100. Meaning you have to multiply any focal length on the lens by 1.5. So a 16mm by 1.5 will give you the equivalent of a 24mm output. So this camera that I have here that we're not able to use tonight has a 24mm on a full frame. This 16mm on the APS-C is giving me the same focal length and the same type of image that I would get from this 24mm with that multiplication in place. The 30mm by 1.5 will give you a 45mm equivalent at the f1.4, and the 56 will give you, I believe, an 84 or an 80. It's like an 85mm equivalent with the APS-C crop factor on it, so that's a lot more telephoto. The 30 is more closer to like the 50mm range, which is a focal length that I really do enjoy. I was talking about the 50mm, and then the 24mm, which is the 16mm that you're seeing here. So the 16mm allows you to get a wide enough image, but also still have it close enough that I'm able to touch the camera, like here. So let's say I wanted to showcase something. All I have to do is do that, pop it right in front, and then that's it. With the 30mm, you're gonna get a different type of compression when it comes to the background, so you won't see things as wide, so it'll close it off. You'll get more of a bokeh, you know, effect, more of that popping out, but to do so and to be correct and focused, the camera would have to be a little bit further back so that you're in frame, because if not, it's gonna be something like you're gonna be way too tight. Now I'm just gonna get closer to the camera. It's gonna look something similar to this, and nobody looks good when they're that close. That's how it is. Okay, what capture card am I using? The cheap one, the $18 video capture card, USB 3.0, that you can find on Amazon. 1080i output, and that's it. Like I said, I really, when I first started live streaming, and even till now, like, I don't have a budget set out to get all of this equipment. I know what I want to get, but then I also have to know what I'm able to do. And right now I'm able to provide a pretty good image, high quality audio, without having to have spent a lot of money on the setup. I'm lucky enough that I had cameras through my photography that I could already use to go live and get a high quality image, but the investment was already there and I just needed to add a couple of pieces to the mix. You know, I think right now what I've mostly invested into my live stream is this $50 audio mixer, my new $20 microphone, and about $60 in video cards at like $20 a piece. Well, roughly, yeah, because I bought some with some USB extension cables, and those USB extension cables I highly recommend, especially if you're going to use more than one video capture card on whichever setup that you're using, for the reason that they're kind of bulky, and when you have them sticking directly out of the USB port, they kind of get heavy, especially when you have to add a HDMI cable, which is also going to add weight. So I wouldn't recommend having all that extra like weight being pulled down directly on the USB on any computer. So it's a lot easier for you to just get a high speed extension so that you have the smallest type of connection connecting directly to the USB on your computer, giving you the extension to have the majority of the weight of the video capture card and the HDMI cable sitting down on a table onto the side instead of it being forced directly onto your machine. So that's why I spent a little bit extra on my video capture cards, but some people spend $120, $140 on one Elgato Camlink 4K, which they are amazing, don't get me wrong, but when I was just starting out, I had nothing in my budget for this. So I'm just working with what I had, and I wanted to get a better quality image than what I was getting from the USB, you know, like connecting the M50 directly with a, you know, web utility app. That's why I got the video capture card, and I could honestly tell you a lot of people that decide to go to budget video capture card are happy. Another photographer that I follow, Omar Gonzalez, also he's been doing live streams for over a year now, and he uses the Amazon entry-level $20 video capture card. All right, Aaron is in the house. That always makes me laugh, Aaron. I cannot not laugh when I hear the Arnold. So that's for you, sir. How are you doing, Aaron? Hope you're having a great day. I'm gonna try my best to catch your live stream tomorrow, but I hope you understand. The weekends are really busy for Mr. Fix It, not MrCameraJunkie. Everybody's calling me on the weekends when they're available to get their phones fixed. Okay, so I'm planning to buy the camera off Kijiji, Canadian Craigslist. Yeah, I've heard of it. What are the things I should check and ask about the camera? Okay, that's a good question. So now I will tell you to take notes, but this is all being recorded, so you could always just reference back to the video. But things to check that you're going to want to see is, you know, even though I really doubt that they would have taken a lot of photos, you sometimes on older cameras you want to check the shutter count, because the shutter count really is going to give you an indication, kind of like a miles counter on a vehicle, how much the camera was used itself. But good thing is that unless it being something like tragically physical happening to the camera, these cameras are pretty much built to last. They're not like disposable tech compared to other things like phones, you know, that people just buy a new phone because there's a new upgrade and stuff like that. You know, photographers do have FOMO, but it's not because their previous cameras have died, and that's something good in that aspect. So you would want to check the shutter count. If it is a Sony camera, there is a free shutter count like utility that you can use, but you have to be connected to the internet. So I would see if you had the ability to maybe meet up with someone like at a McDonald's. The reason why I say McDonald's is because they have free Wi-Fi, so maybe you can carry a laptop and be able to take a picture or two onto a memory card, because that's also something that you want to do. You want to make sure that when you're buying a camera, you can record the images that you're taking onto the memory card. Once you have that successfully done, you're going to want to take the memory card out, put it into the computer, make sure you can read the files, and then you can take that file, go drop it into the link, and it will tell you the EXIF data of the Sony camera through a simple JPEG, and it will give you the amount of shutter actuations that the camera has had, which is going to give you a good indication of the camera's usage. The A6100, I believe it's set up for like 150,000 shutter actuations, or maybe even 200,000 shutter actuations, like guaranteed from Sony without it giving a problem. But to tell you the truth, you can use the cameras a lot more. Like right now, I use my cameras for video, and that doesn't increase any shutter actuations. Excuse me. So video doesn't like count as a shutter actuation, even though I've been using this camera and the sensor for over an hour, right? So how much can you really tell from the shutter actuations? Like I said, it's not exactly the exact amount of the way that the camera was treated, but then that's when you can just look at the camera. Is it beat up? Has it looked like it took a fall? And that's what I would tell you. Be meticulous. Make sure that you're looking at every aspect. Make sure that there's no like dead pixels on the LCD. Check the viewfinder. Check the viewfinder. Make sure that that's working and that you can see everything nice, crisp, and clear. A tip that it's probably, I was gonna make it a tip of the day, which you might hear it in a future live stream. Check your diopter. The diopter is, let me see if we can bring it here. Oh, it's focusing on my hand. Okay. The diopter, oh, it's upside down, is that little mark here right next to the viewfinder. That little control wheel. That's kind of like the focus of the actual viewfinder. So if it looks blurry, make sure that you adjust the diopter and get it crisp and clear. Once you have it crisp and clear, make sure that you check the LCD display inside of the viewfinder. Make sure that that's working just as well. Like this camera, I was able to pick up really cheap because the person who owned it previously was neglectful. You can see the bottom of the LCD, it's cracked. Now the LCD itself works fine, it works perfect, but they neglected, they treated this camera not the best, you know. But because of that, when I went to go do the deal, I was able to knock some money off of the deal and be like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna walk away because you never told me about the broken LCD, and I got a substantial discount on this camera, lens and everything. I think I paid $100 even. So with that being said, with that crack, this camera has never failed on me. This camera works perfect. I've looked at replacing the screen because I have the ability to do so, but the prices never seemed adequate enough for what I paid for it. I would be investing more into the LCD than I did for the camera itself. It's not like the LCD doesn't work, so I just left it like that, called it a day, and say I will continue to use it, kind of like a fender bender on a vehicle, you know. Hey, you didn't plan for it, but it'll go that way and it'll continue working just fine because it's not the end of the world. So it really all has to do with that, and that's kind of like the best tips that I can give to you when it comes to checking out cameras. One thing, you know what, let me mention it because it might not be obvious. Check the sensor. Take off the cover, make sure that you check the sensor and you see what's going on in it. Make sure that there's like no scratches, Nothing on the physical sensor, because that's not something that you would be able to replace on your own. So make sure that there's no damage to the sensor itself, because that's also what's going to be taking the image. You know, if the sensor is busted, then it doesn't matter what type of glass you put in front of it, it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna resolve the images that you want. So that is a good tip when it comes to looking at used cameras and how to test them out. Obviously, you know, you just run it through the paces. I would tell you to also make sure that you run the dial at least once, and make sure that every mode gives you like functionality, and that you don't get any issues with that. And that's that. I have another story just to ad-lib in there. I went to purchase a camera, and because the memory card that they had wasn't compatible with the camera, I wasn't able to record any images to the SD. Because of that, I purchased it really cheap, and then figured out that it was because the older camera wasn't able to reach 64 gigabyte memory cards. So I threw a 32-bit gigabyte memory card onto it, and it worked fine. So I was able to sell it for more, make some profit. So there you go. Once. Okay. Let me see here. I think what is the most expensive camera? So then get the SM7B. You talking to me? Nah. Also try Ecamm on the iMac. In the back, it would work better than with the Mini. No, it will not. I play YouTube videos on that machine, and the fan kicks off to high hell. If I were to try to put Ecamm on there and run it, Plus, it's an older Intel. Because of the older chipset that's on it, it doesn't even take the latest firmware. So it doesn't take Catalina or Mojave. I think the latest OS that it can take was High Sierra, which is still limited in a lot of aspects. So definitely will not be putting the Ecamm on there. I need to stop beating around the bush, so to speak. I need to get the M1. I need to stop messing around. I need to budget that in as my next thing. So even though right now I don't know if you can hear the fan is going, but hopefully the music and everything is keeping keeping the sound low. Apple event on Tuesday, yes. But I was listening to a live stream with Doc Rock, and he was mentioning that usually the April events have mostly to do with the iPads, because the iPads have always been released and been like keynoted, so to speak, in April. So with that being said, most likely you're going to be seeing a new iPad Pro version coming out, or something of that sort. Maybe more iPad, not so much phones or computers. But we could all be wrong. What if, because of this shortage of chips and everything like that, they can just tease us and tell us that they're coming out with a new iMac and not release it for 3 months, and people will still be happy just to hear that it's coming. Sammy says, "Oh, I know." Says the buyer said he only had it for 2 or 3 months. That sounds like a great deal. Listen, I picked up mine used. I got it for $500 with the kit lens. And when I asked the girl that I picked it up, she's like, "I bought it $900, so on and so forth, and just never used it." And I was like, thank you. When I got it and I checked the computer, it had less than 500 shutter actuations. The camera was barely used. Like, and when I mean barely, I mean like that's not even a percent of a percent. you know, like of over 200,000 shutter actuations. That's nothing. So that's like test footage, and been extremely happy with my A6100. Like, I cannot tell you, like, so happy. It runs off of USB power. Excuse me. So if you wanted to do a live stream like this, all you have to do is plug in the USB and you would be continuously feeding power to it and it just won't die. Run continuously. It's an amazing camera. It's an amazing camera. Aaron Short, hope there's an Apple event. I got Rene Ritchie on my show about the Apple event. Did that already happen, Sammy? Did you have him on, or you're going to have him on? That sounds awesome, and congratulations, by the way. That's really cool. Sammy Superstar saying, hope there's a new Mac. I got. That's the same. Oh, it's written twice. Sammy goes, oh no, $100. What camera is it? Which camera are you talking about, Sammy? This one? This is the NEX6. The Sony NEX6. Super thin profile, 16 megabytes. I mean, 16 megabytes. 16.1 megapixels. Super thin. Like this to me, this is like the ultimate little like street photography camera. I love this camera because it's so thin, and I love pairing it. Let me see. Do I have that lens around here? No, I don't see it. I love putting this the Sony 20mm f2.8 because it's a small pancake lens. The lens almost doesn't even go higher than like the little like bump that you got here, so it's literally like just that much thicker than the body cap that comes with the camera. It literally fits in your pocket and you can get some really cool images. I've set this up so that it shuts off so that it conserves the battery life, because that's the one bad thing about the older Sony cameras, that their processors weren't really like the most efficient, so they consume the battery pretty fast if left unattended. So I've set up my camera where it barely uses the back LCD most of the time. Even though it's on, it doesn't turn on the back LCD. And then when I put my face, when I put the camera to my face and the viewfinder to my eye, that's when it will turn on the viewfinder, and that's as little electricity as it possibly can use. As soon as I'm done taking a photo, after 10 seconds, it goes right back into the standby mode. And with that set up that way, this camera lasts me a couple of days of use just on one charge, because I'm maximizing the output of the battery for taking photos more than anything. Another thing is that this older camera doesn't have a mic input jack, but it does have the multimedia interface, hot shoe. You see there? So I have tried it, and I was able to put my Sony KM1 microphone adapter thing and get XLR audio from microphones onto this old NEX to do video. That's amazing. The one bad thing is that this does not have the MP4 codec, so it shoots in the AVC HD codec, which is like this weird compressed file. But one good thing is that Final Cut Pro deals with that file perfectly, so I can take the memory card right out, put it into my computer, and then download that file into Final Cut Pro, and it gets kind of converted automatically. Take the chip out, and I have the copied file that I'm able to edit in high definition quality. So no complaints. That even if you wanted to create content with a, how old is this? This is an 11-year-old camera, something like that, it can still get it done. Aaron says new iMac please. Says, I think it's an A6400. Nah, man. Now you're pulling my leg. An A6400 for an A6400 for $640. No, I think you're mixing up the 64 numbers, because that I would tell you to rip his arm off. That's a saying that we use over here. Like, when the deal is too good, if it's available, make sure that he doesn't change his mind. If you can get an A6400 for that price, man, absolutely killer deal, because it does have a couple of other added features over the A6100. Now, when it comes to the computing and the visual specs and stuff like that, the one main thing that the A6400 has over the A6100 is that it has the picture profiles, meaning you can shoot in a flat log or S log gamma, right? A hybrid log gamma. So many freaking terms and everything. Hybrid log gamma, or in S log, to get log type footage flat, allowing you to maximize your, oh my god, I'm brain farting right now, maximize your dynamic range on it, and allows you to do the color correction and color editing in post. That's what it has as far as the specs on the internals. That's kind of like the main difference. It has a upgraded viewfinder, so what you're looking through is also going to look better. But the other thing that doesn't get talked about that much, which it does have starting at the A6400 and the A6600, is that it has a magnesium alloy body, meaning it's rugged. It's also weather sealed, so you can take it out pretty much anywhere and you're gonna be good, whether it's light rain or dust, like in a dust storm. So those are some added key features to the 6400 over the A6100 that are really worth it if that's something that you're going to be doing. And if it's available for you on a used deal, like through Kijiji, for that price, yes. Because even if you didn't like the camera, you can turn around and sell it on Kijiji. Be a little patient, but you can sell it for more. So that, if that's the deal that you're getting, an A6400 for under $700, 100% get that deal. Let me know what happens. I would love to hear. M1 iMac with no fan. I think it's gonna have a fan. Even the Mac Mini has a fan, and they're not gonna make a very powerful iMac, right? That's gonna blow everything out of the water and limit the processor like they did on the MacBook Air, just so that they can keep it fanless. That won't happen. And to do it, the machine. No, I don't think it'll be done in an iMac form. Maybe in a GMAC Tower type of format that you can say you can go completely, try to dissipate the heat through the chassis and it being big enough. But I don't think that you'd be able to go fanless. Now, you're gonna get the quietest fan on the market. You don't even hear the M1s, that even though the fans are on, you don't hear them, which is the most important thing. So if it's a very low noise, passive type of fan, then if you can't tell that it's on, is it really on, right? But if it is, like that's what I said, there'll be no way that it'll be fanless, but to you, your perception of it, it could be. So let me say, what? Oh. Aaron says, please, you talking to me like if I'm making these computers. I'm just telling you how I feel because of just the limitations of what we're dealing with when it comes to these computers, Sammy's saying true. Arnold Arnold's like,
come on, do it.
M1 Mini.
Come on, do it.
iPad, yes, but maybe Max too. That's the whole thing. I think this keynote, whatever, this Apple event is going to be more about the iPads. Whichever it is, because even the iPad Air, the one that they came out with last, is a killer machine. So what if they say iPad Air with the USB-C or something of that sort? I say it's going to be more of a M1 centric iPad Pro, which is going to be just on the cusp of like a MacBook Pro, especially with like their Magic Keyboard, the way that they have that set up. So let's see what happens. It's all speculation. On the 30th, I think, says Sammy. Says Renee knows. He has the review unit already. Do you know that for a fact? We're just pawns in Apple's game. He says, oh, Arnold, on the Apple site, no iMac is available until Wednesday. There's a lot of things. Look, there was a live stream. I think it was the same one that I had mentioned where Doc Rock was talking about that he even thinks that Sony has discontinued the A6100 and didn't really make an announcement for it. And the reason why is because they might have discontinued it because of the lack of the processor chips and the things that are needed, the components, the rare earth elements that are needed to make these cameras. So why create something more on the inexpensive if the cost of the actual production of the camera is increased? Then they will definitely drop off their entry level cameras so that they can produce the same sensors into the ones that make them more money, like the 64 and the 6600, or maybe even only dedicate the resources that they have as far as rare earth elements to their full frame cameras. So these lockdowns and all this stuff, man, is changing a lot of things, and it's almost like, well, you know what, I don't want to say it and I'm not gonna say it, so that's that. Yep, I'm just saying yep because Sammy just said what, no A6100. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly why, and that's why I told Mr. Blank Boulevard here that if he's able to get any of these cameras to snatch it up, if you could afford it in your budget, snatch it up, because it really starting to look like what's available on the market is what's going to be available. So it's like what we have on the shelves is going to be what's available on the market, and once it's gone, because I don't see a lot of people producing new stuff right at the moment. Oh, Aaron's killing me, man. Telling me there's a shortage of Krispy Kremes. You got me thinking of Krispy Kremes. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay, let's see. It says the higher end iMacs are available, and I'm sure that they will keep them. Many people will still want Intel, but the other iMacs say available Wednesday, which means they will release the M1 versions on Tuesday. The reason why everyone's thinking about iMacs, because apparently the ones that they had like went on sale and they like got reduced in price. I'm not too sure about that. It says I'm still waiting for some of my software to be updated for the M1. Some companies really slow to update. Yep. What is the cheapest lens great for videography on the A6100? That's really up to you. That's subjective, you know. I really think that the 16mm f1.4, what you're looking at right here, is my favorite lens for the Sony APS-C setup. I have this other lens which I'm going to be testing. I don't know where I put it. It's the 10 to 18mm f4. It has OSS. It's also considered to be one of Sony's better vlogging type cameras. I end up using it at 16 anyway. Like, it has the range from 10 to 18, and I end up falling on the 16 millimeter. And then I go, okay, if I'm gonna use the 16 millimeter, I'm gonna use the 1.4 over the f4. Now the f4 has OSS. If you don't know what that means optical steady shot, which is Sony's version of stabilization. So with that being said, there are advantages and disadvantages. It's a very sharp and good looking lens, and the stabilization works very well, but I still prefer my 1.4. You know, the extra wide 15 millimeter look that you get with the 10 millimeters on the APS-C, I don't like. I don't like being that wide and that fisheye. Now, I have not tried to correct the fisheye distortion in post at all, and that's just me being upfront with you, because I don't like what the camera looks like from the get-go, so I don't film in that format to try to see if I can fix it in post. I don't really shoot vlogs for that moment or for that reason, and if I'm using the 16 millimeter, it's mostly for photography, unless I'm doing video like this. So those are my thoughts on that. It says there's a shortage of chips right now. It's really bad. Yep. I heard Doritos, Frito-Lays, they're all suffering from this chip shortage. No, I'm just messing, obviously, but yeah, it's affecting every aspect. That's what people don't understand, this aspect when it comes to this need of rare earth elements. Right now, your car needs silicone based computer chips so that it works. Okay? Like, our refrigerators need silicone based chips. Well, some of them, you know, like these smart fridges, they need that computing power. So there's so many things that have left the analog and are digital, and now are using CPU silicone based processors to run these functionalities, and it's in everything. So from our cell phones to our cameras to our PlayStations to our televisions to our refrigerators to the Alexa little bot that we speak to, and every aspect now has a microprocessor chip inside of it doing work. We're seeing a shortage in every aspect. Okay, so this is Aaron saying what? Also shortage of Krispy Kreme. Oh, excuse me. All right, yeah, we're at like 2 hours. That was my body saying 2-hour call. What's the difference between the 6500 and the A6100? Okay, well, let me give you a brief rundown. Okay, when Sony came out with their line of APS-C cameras, the first set was the A6000, which was entry. Then you had a step up from that, which is the A6300, and then their top of the line APS-C, which was the A6500. The differences were pretty much the same thing. The A6300 was the first one that stepped you up into 4K video, because the A6000 only had 1080p, and then the A6500 had the 4K and also had IBIS, which was the in-body image stabilization, added to the APS-C camera that it already had. So it had all the benefits, being 4K and the image stabilization built into the sensor. Sony then decided to upgrade each one of those cameras, and they upgraded the number by 1 count. So now the A6000 became the A6100 as it's the upgrade from the 6000. The A6400 was the upgrade to the A6300, and the A6600 was an upgrade from the 6500. And the new line also all brought out the new flip up LCD that first started on the A6400, because the 6400 was the first of the series to get upgraded. That one got upgraded in 2018, and then the other two, the 6000 and the 6500, were then replaced with the 61 and the 6600 in 2019. So yep, that's a quick rundown of how the numbers sequence. So the entire line of available APS-C lenses in the 6000 series go 6000, 6100, 6300, 6400, 6500, and 6600. Now, there are differences in these bodies when it comes to the new upgrades. Like I told you, the A6100 has a lot of these features. It also has 4K built in, time lapse, silent shooting. It does pretty much everything that the 6400 does, except it doesn't have the magnesium alloy body. It does not have the picture profiles, does not have the weather sealing. Now, the A6600 has all of those features, also has the in-body image stabilization, and the last upgrade that it got was the bigger Z-type battery, which was the battery that they were using on their full frame cameras, which kind of more than doubles the battery life on the 6600 comparative to all of the other cameras in their line. And that's super impressive, because the A6100 gives me incredible battery life with the new processor that it has, and it's like a low voltage processor to be able to do everything that I ask it to, and it doesn't consume a lot of battery. So with that being said, that type of processor giving a low voltage and low consumption on a bigger battery allows you to get like even better than what we used to get from DSLR cameras on the A6600. But that's a pretty nice price tag of, I believe, $1,400 for that camera. So all of those are the differences in those cameras. I need to hydrate. I was pushing it there. Ooh. Sammy says, oh, I still see the A6100 still on B&H. Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about from the factory. There's nothing new coming out. It's like what's already been made is available, but there's nothing new coming off the line. Now, there is a speculation that Sony is still to announce 3 more cameras for this year. So if that is true, there could be a replacement to the A6100 coming up. There's a couple of rumors running around of it being the A7000 series, being a full frame APS-C size body, or just a new line of APS-C sensors being higher megapixels, which to me sounds more feasible. I think that if they decide to go with an Alpha 7000 series, being keeping the extra numbers or the extra digits in the number as the APS-C line, and keeping the single digits like the A7, the A9, the A1 as their full frame cameras, if they stay in that style, then what they might upgrade is not the actual physical size of the sensor, but the megapixel count, which is what a lot of people have said that Sony has been milking at the 24 megapixels. But to me personally, I don't think you need much more. I don't think you need more than 24 megapixels. But being that the new Canon cameras, I believe one of the new Canon cameras also has a 30 megapixel sensor in the APS-C, I think that that's kind of like the next step that Sony might be thinking of taking, kind of going a 30 or 32 megapixel sensor on the APS-C size, which is not that far-fetched because it has to do with the phase detection or pixel density on the sensors. And the A7, the A7R4 is a 61 megapixel sensor, and when you apply the APS-C lens, I believe it gives you roughly a 32 megapixel equivalent, cutting it in half. So if that is correct, that same pixel density that you would get on a sensor of 61 megapixels will allow you to still get a 32 megapixel pixel density on a small APS-C sensor, which would be what could be on this new A7000 line. And disclaimer right off the bat, that's all speculation. That is absolutely 100% speculation. That's just going with like how Sony has worked in the past. But just like they've also proven to us that they can come out with the Sony A1 and just nobody even knew that it was coming, and it's a camera that just blew everything else out of the water. So what could be coming down the pike, who knows? But we will be finding out soon, hopefully sooner rather than later. Okay, so Semi says, be right back. I'm getting some water in my Ecamm mug. Ha ha ha. 2 hours and I'm back. So I spoke all that stuff while he went out. Okay, does the A6100 have body image stabilization? No, it does not. That's the whole thing. The A6100, the A6000, the A6100, its upgrade, the A6300, and the A6400 do not have image stabilization on all those APS-C. They have fixed sensors. The A6500 and the A6600 on the APS-C are the only ones that have the IBIS or in-body image stabilization. Now, the lenses that you use with the Sony cameras have OSS built in. So the image stabilization is built into the lens. So the Sony kit lens has image stabilization. The other lens that I was mentioning to you, the 10 to 18 OSS f4, that's also OSS, optical steady shot. So that has the image stabilization built into the lens. The Sigma f1.4 that you're seeing right now, being third party and being a prime lens, does not have image stabilization. So if you were to be using this lens for vlogging, you would see a whole lot of those shakes and jitters in the camera footage because there's no image stabilization to try to help you with that aspect. But that's also why I recommend, depending on what type of images that you're capturing, whether it be video or stills photography, what you're doing with the camera is really dependent on what lens you should go with. But that's also another thing, you know, I get great video, right, using my full frame lenses that have image stabilization made for this big boy on my APS-C camera. So I use the kit lens, the 28 to 70, or even sometimes this 24 to 70 OSS f4, and throw it on the APS-C 6100, and now that gives me a much better image stabilized lens to compensate for the jitters that I would get in my hand if I'm doing video. Dr. Elo in the house. Sammy says 3 more cameras. Yeah, this year, supposedly. We'll find out. That's what was rumored. Right now we have the rumor of this lens and the things that are being created from Sony. It all has to do with speculation of serial numbers that they are patenting. So that's where these rumors kind of come from, you know, like when the company itself is going to the patent board and saying, hey, I want to patent this and that, through the model numbers that they're actually putting to patent is how people are able to break things down, because they're pretty much legible. Here, let me give you an example. Let me see if we can see it. Okay, this is the Sony kit lens, right? Let's see if we can focus. Sony kit lens, pancake. Right there, we're gonna see it says 3.5, 5.6 variable aperture. It is also telling us the focal length of 16 to 15 millimeters. And right there, as you can read, it says optical steady shot, OSS. So it's got the optical steady shot built into this lens. Now, I'm going to bring you towards the back so that we can see. And now, on the back part right there, you see it says SELP 1650. Okay, that 1650 is giving you the focal length, the 16 to 50 millimeter Sony E mount. So see, Sony E mount lens, 16 to 50 millimeter, and it's right there on that model number. So all of their lenses pretty much follow that same type of systematic coding, and through that and being able to look at what they're registering is how we're able to kind of reverse engineer to say, like, that's coming down the pike, that's the new whatever it is that's coming down. So lenses always have that SLP or the FE with the model number, and the camera bodies themselves have completely different codecs when it comes to the model numbers. And from what it's expected, three more cameras should be announced this year. And the way Sony's been going, they have not given up. Like, they're everybody's like, what are we going to be doing? And Sony's just like 50 millimeter. Oh, you don't like the 50 millimeter 1.2? Hey, we have a set of, what was it? It was a 28, a 45, and a 50 in these like compact f2 full, like small sized full metal lenses. Those primes look so nice. And yet that's something else that I have not even spoken about here. Dr. Elo saying hi to Sammy, and he's replying. Rob, let's get a question. Could you go over the entire Sony A6000 lineup one more time so I can write all that down? That's what I mentioned. I was like, when everybody says like I'm taking notes, like I recommend people take notes on Clubhouse. You know, like if you're using a Clubhouse application, stuff that's like on the fly and that you could only get there, absolutely take notes because you'll forget stuff. Anything that's being recorded on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on all these, it's being recorded. Just watch the replay, you know? So I've had experiences like that where I'm like engulfed in the what's happening and people are like, oh, you should be writing this down. I'm like, it's being recorded. I'm like gonna download this file and keep it and be able to listen back to it and reference it whenever I want. So yeah, crazy how we have had everything at our fingertips and now there's a shortage. Really makes you appreciate what you have. Absolutely, because right now, right, I don't leave any of my cameras in my car at no time. So people are like, why are you carrying your camera with you, right? Why don't you just leave it in the car? I'm like, would I leave my child in my car? No. Now, as a photographer, right, as a content creator, you really start to realize, like, that little piece of tech is my connection to you guys. Think about that. This piece of tech, this camera, is what's allowing me to produce a video image on a live stream that has what it says is got what 7 people here on the live right now. So nobody would be here right now if I would have dropped my camera and it breaks. Where would I be? And when you start thinking of stuff like that, then you start saying like, wow, my camera is way more valuable than the price that is given on a website or on a tag. You know, like I advocate for everyone getting the best deal and get the best price that you can wherever you can. That is on everything in life. But do I think that these cameras are worth their weight in gold? Absolutely. What I'm doing here, creating this content, creating my entire YouTube channel, is a direct correlation from these devices And if I didn't have them, where would I be? Like, I know you can get a lot of things done with your phone and stuff like that, but that's still in the same ballpark. That's literally saying like that is your camera. So if you don't have the tools that you use in your everyday, where would you be? And once I was able to realize how important these machines are to me personally, I'm like, oh, they're your babies. You're like, no, why would you leave this in the car? Or like, can't leave it. You know, it's very easy for somebody to just break the glass in a car when they see a nice camera sitting in the front seat and just snatch it. Where would I be? Right? I'd be messed up, and I would only have myself to blame to say I was the loser who left the camera in the car. So I always, take what's important to you and keep that close, right? I never leave my son anywhere. I will never leave my camera anywhere. And those are my thoughts. Definitely appreciate what I have. Okay, any thoughts on an OSS with Sigma 16mm f1.1 in crop mode on the A7C with GPS data? Can get good OSS for vlogging video via correction in post. I do agree with that, but I wouldn't do it on the A7C. You see, for example, oh well, actually no, I stand corrected. I would do it on the A7C. I wouldn't do it on the A7S, and that's the difference. The A7C for video will still give you at least 10 megapixels, allowing you to do full frame. And yes, I recommend doing exactly that because the OSS is built into the sensor on the full frame cameras. And if you're doing vlogging, that's a great setup and a great idea. So I agree with it because that's pretty much what I do with my, like when I want OSS on my Sigma 16mm, I throw it onto the A7R because that has OSS, and once it goes into crop mode, it's an 18 megapixel crop mode, which is not 24 but a lot better than 10. And with that being said, I get great video off of this, and it has OSS built into the sensor of the A7R. So with that being said, it kind of does the same job that you were just mentioning with the A7C, being able to get image stabilization on a prime lens from Sigma. And then you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the handheld capability, the A7C being a full frame and is still in the same size as the APS-C, with the Sigma 16mm. That's a great combination. So it says that should I get the A6300 instead of the A6100 because the only thing I'm looking for is 4K Sony's great autofocus. Okay, no, for this reason. If you can get the A6100 over the A6300, I was comparing the upgraded versus the old, right? And I gave you the steps in each one. The A6100 to me, hands down, is way better than the A6300 for a couple of reasons. The color science on the A6300 is still Sony's older color science, which gives a lot more of the green cast and hues. The A6100 has one of Sony's newer color sciences, so straight off the bat, as I was telling you, my skin tones look great and I don't look green or over orange. So that's one of the main things when it comes to your images, footage, video, or stills. It's going to look a lot better and a lot just a lot better when it comes to the skin tones in people's images on the 6100 over the 6300. And the other thing is the flip up screen. The flip up screen on the A6100, 64, and 6600 to me is my favorite. We've had conversations here with Rob and Mario and everyone. I'm like, I'm team flip up. Everyone asks for the flip out screen. I so prefer the flip up screen on the A6100. Hands down. I think it's more convenient. It gives you that way that you can look at yourself and make sure that you're framed. but it doesn't have this extension, which to me also leaves that LCD flopped out to the side vulnerable, because I've seen plenty of videos where somebody just drops their camera when that screen is fully articulated out and it just crunch. It's a wrap. You have to send your camera in to get it fixed. That's not something that happens with the flip up screen, especially the way that Sony has designed it. It's a full metal like chassis that's holding it out and up. So I prefer the flip up over the flip out screen. And that's one of the main features that I really didn't think was going to be that big of a deal, because I was moving from the A6000, which also had the articulating like flip out screen, but not flip up. It didn't have any way to self monitor, and man, makes a huge difference. And now that I have it, I see all the benefits of the flip up even over the flip out. Now I have a Nikon here. Give me 1 second. Just show you, this Nikon has a flip out screen, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Look at this. This is vulnerable, and oops, sorry. And when it comes to self-recording, right? If I wanted to switch my hands, this is in the way. If the screen were to be up, then it's easy for me to move from hand to hand, which is why I like the A6100 and the Sony Alpha APS-C line. I really do. So that's my recommendation to you. I think the A6100 over the 6300 any day. Any day. The only thing that I would say 6300 is weather sealing and that magnesium body, because that also applied on the 6300 over the 6000. But I really don't think that that's the type of video that you're going to be shooting. You wouldn't be putting your camera in like a compromising position like that. I do understand that sometimes that's something that's necessary, but I don't think that that's the feature that you were mentioning, saying that you were just looking for the 4K. And when it comes to that, image quality, autofocus, and battery life, everything that's been upgraded to this camera, I would totally go 6100 over 6300. Now, if it's a 6400, obviously yes, because it's everything the 6100 is and more. But the 6100 is a much better camera than you would get off the A6300. And that's my opinion. Alright, well, let me know if you guys have any other questions here, because we've been at it for a while, but I think I'm going to be calling it. I think I'm going to just call it for the night. Start a little early and end a little early, right? That way, maybe I can get a little bit more rest tomorrow and get started on my busy day, because, oh yeah, another thing that just happened is the AC on my car died. Well, it didn't die. It's not like compressor issues or anything like that. But the blower motor that actually blows the cold air died. So I think on top of the things that I had scheduled to do tomorrow, I still have to go to the auto parts store and pick up that blower motor and do it myself, because I definitely do not have the budget to pay somebody to do it. I have the ability to do it myself, so I'm going to, and I have to, because I live in South Florida. It is too hot to be riding in a car with no AC, especially with my son. There's no way that I'd be able to put him through that. So tomorrow is something that needs to get done, and I need to fix my AC. A hit to the budget, but that's why, hey, we all have, our rough times. Like right now, I'm not buying cameras, I'm buying AC blower motors, right? Not spending money on glass. I have to do what I have to do, and we'll work on the luxury items in the future, right? What I mostly want to work on is my audio, but I think the audio is taken care of for the time being. There could be some minor tweaks that could be done, but nothing that's really necessary. Video's looking good, and then on top of that, yeah, on top of that, nothing, just the fact that my AC broke, and that's it. Well, with that being said, I'm gonna get some rest. I wish you the best as well. I hope that you guys all stay safe in this upcoming week. Next week, I'm planning on doing it at the same time. I think this was a better time for everyone, and we'll figure it out. If not, if I can't make 11, I will still be live at 12, but I'm gonna see how it goes for the 11 o'clock hour from here on out in the future, before I change my channel banner to actually say that it's, you know, at this time. So the way that I see it is, if I start an hour early and then I'm still doing a live stream at 11:55, then anyone that's coming in at that time, because they're aware of that time being my regularly scheduled slot, they're still gonna find me here just an hour late, and maybe gives them a little fire to, you know, under their butt to make sure to be here on time, right? To make sure to stay up to date. And if you're not up to date, make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button, and do all that good stuff down there. So I always forget to do that stuff. If you do want to support me, MrCameraJunkie, and the channel, you could always stop by at Buy Me a Coffee and you know, support my caffeine addiction, allowing me to create more things like pop filters, and because I didn't even mention, I totally redid like my lighting here, and I'm gonna be probably making a video. I need to just get into my content and my schedule of creating the content so that I have it out. But I was able to make a soft box that's more permanent, and I was able to make it from foam board. I made it completely from foam board, so it's really light. I was also able to make diffusion panels, and I made one with a grid. Here, let me show you. So yeah, this is the grid that I was able to make for my light here. So if I want to control the light even more, I'm able to do that, and it's still the same RGB light that I've been using this entire time, but I just decided to put it into a more like final state, so to speak, like a more of a finished product, instead of just having it up there janky like I've had it this entire time. So I was able to put something together, and I think the results speak for themselves. It just worked out perfectly. Yep. And the funny thing is, I'm still just using standard, and I keep mentioning it, I go back to it, I'm using standard printer paper, white printer paper, as my diffusion material to soften the light, and that's it. And it works so well. Not parchment paper, not baking paper, not cookie sheets, not nothing. White printer paper, and it gets the job done. But with that being said, like I was saying before, I wish everyone the best in this upcoming week. I will see you all here next week. Fingers crossed, 10:55 p.m. Eastern Time, an hour earlier than my traditional slot. Okay, I'm just gonna check these last messages. I'll probably hit up your stream up next time. Stream, I'm gonna hit you up. It says thanks for the help, by the way. I really didn't understand exactly. It says, but I'm gonna hit the hey. Oh, I didn't even read it. If I would have just read it, then I would have understood it. I'll probably hit your stream up next time you stream, but I'm gonna hit the hey for the time being. Yeah, we're all going to sleep right now. And he says thanks for the help, by the way. All right, I'm happy to help, and that's what I'm here every Saturday, answering questions, opening up the conversation, and trying to open up people's minds as well, you know, to think of the the industry that we're in and that we're dealing with a little bit different, because it's like everything's a ripple effect. That's why it doesn't seem that way, but you know, there's a lot of things coming down the way, and we're gonna be here every Saturday talking about it, and that's what we do. Well, with that being said, I wish everyone a happy and great rest of their evening. Stay safe, get some rest, and I will see everyone next week. All right, have a great night.